Hey guys, question 2 this week asks you to look at the person who has most influenced your worldview and apply the looking glass self to that relationship. So this video is designed to help you get a better idea of the looking glass self and maybe look at how that has influenced your relationships with the people around you and how that relationship has helped you understand who you are personally. So Charles Cooley, his whole idea here is based on the self. And he thinks this isn't something we're born with, that just as a baby, you don't really have a firm idea of who you are, and it's something that you figure out just gradually as you grow up. So, the mirror here is a metaphor. You'd figure out what you look like physically by looking in a mirror, but when it comes to figuring out yourself and who you are, that comes through your interactions with others, that your interactions with your parents and your siblings and your teachers and your friends, all of those help you get an idea of the person that you are, and the people that you interact with become your mirrors. You see what they think of you when you interact with them, and it changes the way that you see yourself. So maybe like Curious George over there, the way people react to you makes you feel like you are a strong person. Maybe like the cat that thinks it's a lion, your interactions with other people have helped you think that you're strong or fierce. Or maybe like this scruffy guy over here, you show up with a little 5 o'clock shadow at the testing center, and now based on people's reactions to you, you think you are really scruffy or a slob. It all is based on the way you think people see you. So let's walk through the steps here. So step 1 is, how do other people perceive us? Maybe they think we're smart, maybe they think that we're funny or organized or athletic or mean. Now this perception, we could get that in 2 ways. Maybe someone comes up to us and says, you're so smart, or wow, I'm really impressed with how well you did at baseball today. But a lot of this is just our interpretation. Maybe somebody clapped when we scored a goal, or maybe somebody smiled, or maybe somebody wants to be our friend after we do something. So that's what we're basing our perception on, possibly more than anything someone's saying. Now, after we get this perception, I kind of consider this the adjective phase. So if you want to figure out what the perception are, just pick an adjective, any adjective. That's step 1. Now, step 2 is whether that's good or bad. So, maybe it comes off as great that you're smart because your teacher smiles at you or your mom and dad give you a hug. But maybe people aren't giving you a good reaction if to being funny. Maybe they sort of shake their head, and so then you internalize that good or bad. And then the last step is response, that it changes how you see yourself. That, if you're getting a lot of positive interpretations, you're like, yes, I'm totally awesome. Or maybe if you feel like you're getting negative ones, you think, ugh, I'm worthless, I need to work harder. Or it just changes a specific way you see yourself. So here's an example that my 5-year-old, I guess, is very excited I'm sharing with you. So my 5-year-old just finished his first soccer season, and one day he made a really cool play where he was able to kick the ball away from the goal. And his coach and his friends were like, way to go, Miles. You're so good at defense. They clapped for him. They brought it up. So there's step 1. He now sees that people perceive him as good at defense. He interprets the perception as, yeah, this is great. They really like that I'm good at defense. And now in response, he sees himself as a defender. So when he's playing soccer, if it gets even sort of close to the goal, he runs as close to it as he can, and that's what he tries to do. That's changed the way that he sees his soccer playing and just his role in the game. So you might think, well, why does this matter? Like, it makes sense, but I don't understand why it should matter for how people see themselves in the long run. But there's actually been a couple studies about how children perceive themselves, and adults too, and how that really does change their behaviors, which is step 3, that response part. So recently, there's been some studies. It's in this awesome book by Poe Bronson and Ashley Merriman called Nurture Shock, which I really recommend if you have children or you're planning to have children or work with children. It's a really interesting book. So here's step 1, that perception stage. The child is praised for their intelligence, maybe on a test or an assignment. And so that perception is, I'm smart. And then step 2, they interpret it, people are impressed with this, they like it. But then step 3, the response is the really interesting stage. So they think, I'm great, which is good, but then they also think, I want people to keep thinking I'm smart. And maybe if I do badly at something, they won't keep thinking I'm smart. And they end up being afraid of a challenge. They'll look at these children that are actually really, really smart. They've tested really well, but they don't like to push themselves, and they don't like if they're bad at spelling out loud, maybe they won't do it. They'll just stand back. They aren't willing to challenge themselves even though they have this capability, because they're afraid that it'll change step 1, that perception. Now the interesting comparison is if step 1 is something really different. So if step 1, instead of saying, oh, you're so smart, you did this test really well, if you say, wow, I can tell you worked so hard on this, that changes the behavior in step 3 to, oh, well, that's a great thing. It means I should keep working hard and trying new things, and I can do this if I try and I work hard at it. So there, the perceptions are really changing the behavior down the line. And another, this is really recent, it just came out this month in the Journal of Family Psychology. This is a BYU psychology professor, and he did a study on teenagers and their perceptions of favoritism. Do you think your parents like your older brother so much better than you? You can see this girl is maybe not so thrilled about that ice cream cone. She sees her sister's bigger ice cream cone and thinks, oh, well, mom and dad like her better because she's getting more ice cream. And his finding here was that children who saw their sibling as being the favorite child were more likely to engage in drug, alcohol, and cigarette abuse. And this was particularly true if they thought there was a big difference in treatment. And it wasn't necessarily the case that their parents really did strongly favor another sibling, but what mattered here was the perception, because it changed how they saw themselves. Maybe by step 3, the response, they think, oh, I'm worthless, or oh, I'm not as good as my sibling, or they'll never notice me for being smart. They're going to have to notice me for something else. And in this case, the something else becomes really dangerous. So here's just another example of why perceptions and that looking glass self really do matter.